Working on it. We'll talk about that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go, guys. Okay, guys, welcome. I'm Doc G, and I've got Jimmy Diele, and we got Matthew Biancaniello.
Excellent pronunciation. Excellent.
I'm Italian.
Excellent. There you go. We'll get that right the first time.
Matthew, you introduce yourself and tell us what you are, because I've heard all kinds of things.
I mean, what I do, or
what you do? Yeah.
I call myself a cocktail chef. You know, I think it describes really what I do pretty well. And it really went back to, you know, when I was at the library bar early on, it was, you know, I didn't come up with Eat Your Drink. I didn't really come up with the whole idea of a chef. I just remember these guys came in early. I let them in my bar early, like an hour early. And I don't know, sometimes I would do that. You know, people were like, they came all the way from Orange County, whatever, like, oh my God, can we come in? I'm like, and I was set up, like, come in. And I remember this guy kept saying, what's next, chef? Okay, chef. He just kept saying that to me, you know, and I think they were responding to that because I used to have all of these herbs and things on the bar. And everything I did, it was much more of a culinary approach. It was going to the farmer's market, then it developed to going foraging and then growing my own things and then really fusing food and alcohol together, doing alcoholic ice creams and alcoholic oysters. And so my mentality is a chef, you know, I mean, it's ingredient based and the alcohol is secondary, really.
Right. So yeah. Matthew, you grew up in a Greek and Italian family, right?
Exactly. Yep. Half Greek, half Italian. Yep.
And you're from Boston.
Brought up more on my Greek side. You know, my father grew up in Brooklyn. He passed away a year ago, 2 days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And but I was brought up. My mother grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire. I was in Boston. It was an hour away. So that really was my whole kind of culinary education, you know.
Right. Now, when you got the gig at the library bar at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, tell us about that. How did you come about getting that job?
I just needed a job. You know, I was at a stage in my life. This was 12 years ago, and I happened to know the manager of the hotel or manager of the bars just through yoga, just by doing yoga, and. You know, she goes, oh, I have this little bar for you. And I didn't really have any experience. My first night, I had to duck down and say to the bartender next to me, what's in a Cosmopolitan? You know? So I never should have been given that job. It was a very prestigious hotel. But the thing that I had going for me is it really was the beginning of the movement of mixology, if you want to call it that, or craft cocktails. So there was a huge learning curve to be had. And people in the hotel weren't really onto it yet. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So when I went in there and I saw these drinks and that they were $15, like these drinks are not worth $15. And all I started doing was taking everything that was on the existing menu and just replace it with fresh ingredients. And one time my manager came, she goes, what the hell is it? I had her try, she tried one drink, she goes, what the hell is in this? This is amazing. I go, well, I'm just, you know, using fresh pomegranate juice instead of the mix. She goes, you're just buying this out of your own pocket? I go, yeah. She goes, I'll start giving you $100 a week. Well, I was spending $400 a week because if anyone has ever gone to the Santa Monica Farmers Market here in Los Angeles, I mean, you just can't believe it. We have these microclimates and the seasons. It's not 4 seasons a year. It's 11 to 12 seasons a year. You know what I mean? And all of these things. And so I was like a kid in a candy store. And I spent $8,000 out of my own pocket that first year, educating myself on alcohol and ice and ingredients. And it was wild, you know, but it became a huge education that no one, I don't think even to this day, had that kind of thing where they left me alone. So all I was doing was creating all day long. And most people and most bartenders that start or anyone, you're in there, you've got to follow this menu, you've got these formalities and all of these things. So I constantly, it was like being in the gym. You know what I mean? So it was a very extraordinary experience. And I was there for 4.5 years.
Well, do you still bartend there at all at the library?
No, I did a pop-up 2 years ago. I can't believe it feels like a year, but like we can't count last year, you know. But I did a pop-up there where I went back 2 years ago. It was very, very successful. Right, and just before the pandemic, I was going to open a place in Tokyo. And I was going to go quarterly, but then the pandemic happened. So we'll see what happens with that. So right now I'm just, you know, illegally bootlegging, and I opened a restaurant out of my home, basically, for people to come, 2 to 4 people at a time.
Oh, that's so fantastic!
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
I mean, you're an artist in your own right, really. I mean, what you do is such an art, really. I love the drinks you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
tell us about.
Listen, my mom was an interior designer, so I know I definitely have that kind of influence too. So, and I just think that I look at myself as artist first. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do think that way.
I was such a big fan of Good Spirits. I used to watch it every Saturday afternoon here. I was on television.
The original episodes?
I don't know if I saw the original, but
original episodes before I feel like they kind of hacked it up and I don't want to say ruined it, but they did.
Right.
On my website, the original 10 episodes, how they were originally supposed to be, are on my website, and they're fantastic. Fantastic.
They used to travel all over the world to get these ingredients. Did you have a favorite place to go? I mean, you went everywhere pretty much.
I went to 10 countries. I'll tell you, so I was so fixated on like local ingredients, right? Everything I did was local, and to the point where people couldn't believe when we went to Tahiti. I'm like, this is the first time I'm using pineapple in a drink. They go, what are you talking about? You've been bartending for 5 years. I said, yeah, but they were never local. I said it wasn't something that was around me. So what was great about Good Spirits and what it did for me is it opened me up to all of these incredible ingredients globally. And so what I started doing when I came back, I started fusing the global with the local. And I have every place was a gem. I can't even say that I like one more than ever, but Tahiti stands out. Bangkok stands out. Colombia was unbelievable. Even my first episode that we shot, not what they show, was in St. Lucia. And I still get it to this day, the sea moss that's grown there. It's an algae that they cultivate and dehydrate, and it puts a different flavor of ocean into cocktails that is unbelievable. And I'm still ordering it.
Really?
Yeah, sea moss, organic sea moss from St. Lucia.
Wow. When I watched the show, it was like I was on vacation. It was like taking a vacation watching your show. Between the places you were at and the drinks that you made, it was like I was on vacation. It was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, the whole point, I think, with it too is what makes what I love so much and why I'll never get sick of it is because there is no end to it. And you're not just creating cocktails, you're really creating experiences for people, right? And you're transporting people in different places, or you're almost like programming them of flavors that they didn't know that they knew. Because that's what I had to do for myself, I know I had a good palate, but it still needed to be developed.
Right.
Yeah.
Years ago, I used to work for the television show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
And it sort of reminded me of that show because of the locations and the way that you hosted the show. I mean, you did such a fantastic job with that.
Thank you so much.
And tell us about, there's one drink that you make that I fell in love with so much. It involves eggnog that you make into like a shake. Oh man, that thing looks so good. Tell us about that and some of the other drinks that you make.
Well, that eggnog is, it's an eggnog. So usually it's either a bourbon or a rum, and it has, cream, egg, and some kind of sugar source, so honey or agave. But over the time I started putting candy cap mushrooms in there. So candy cap mushrooms I had discovered, they were discovered 20 years ago in Marin County. And I love mushrooms, but most mushrooms when they're dried have no flavor. I don't know if you've noticed that, okay? But when candy cap mushrooms are dried, they give off this amino acid of like maple syrup and burnt sugar. So when I used to make eggnog, I used to blow people's minds because they just couldn't believe that flavor was coming from the mushrooms. And then it evolved to black truffles and white truffles and triple mushroom. And I remember, I'll never forget my last year at the library bar. It was in July, and these 4 women showed up. I just met them, and it was in July, okay? And they tasted one of my first drinks. They're like, oh my God, this is incredible. I go, oh, you got to try my white truffle eggnog in December. I said, I only usually make about 10 or 20. Right there, it was $400 a bottle. They bought 4 bottles on their credit card. They gave it to me personally. It was in July. They had just met me for 15 minutes. And they, just on that, they're like, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm ordering those eggnog because I don't want to be left out. And it was like, that's how it was. So every year I do that. And this year was the greatest. I did chanterelle mushroom infused cream, and then I had black truffle mezcal, and then I whipped white truffles into it.
Oh, wow.
It
Nice.
really was one of the best ones I ever made. So I what's so funny is I keep doing this, and every year I try to improve it. How can I improve this? How can I make this so I can make more of these? Whatever that is. Because
Exactly.
people will pay the price, but it has to be great, right? It can't just be, oh, this is white truffles. You have to make it great. And I think a lot of times people just shave truffles on it and drive up the price. But I need to make sure, because there was one woman this year. She goes, oh my God, I think this is spoiled, right? And I said, oh, you never know, because I'm delivering stuff and whatever. I said, well, let me make you another one. And I don't hear from her. I'm like, how was? She goes, it tasted the same. I'm like, I don't think you like truffles. I think it's a truffle issue. I don't think it's a spoiled issue. So, that was the only ever time that someone, because I'm very big on making drinks that is for that person. Just because you might think it's awesome, you might not think it's awesome, So what I really got my reputation too, and I think people focused a lot on my drinks, but they didn't focus enough on my service. And my service was, if you don't love it, I'm making you something else. To the point where I could see it in somebody's face. I'm like, no, it's good. I would take it out of their hand and dump it, and they would be horrified right in front of them. Like, why'd you just throw that out? I said it was good. I said, good is not good. I need great. I need best drink I've ever had. Nice. And so that's how it was. So I got to develop that. So it was really the guests really enhanced what I did. So yeah, so some of my favorite drinks that I created there was a wild arugula gimlet and a tomato mojito that I used to do that I loved. And the strawberry balsamic vinegar drink was really a drink that put me on the map. And it was gin and strawberries and a 25-year-old balsamic vinegar with the Saint Germain foam.
Nice.
Something that I still do. So I have these classics like are in my book. I usually give those to people that, never met me before. And then I'm constantly evolving and doing.
Absolutely. Love the book.
Thank you. Great
book.
Thank you so
Doc,
much.
What do you have for Matthew?
I was going to ask, is some of your concoctions, they sound like they're really, really
terrible?
Not terrible.
People would say that.
Odd combinations, and they really go together as flavors, and that's something that I've never really heard that before. I mean, I have a friend, John Taffer. I'm sure you heard of him, Bar Rescue. Of course, yeah. I know you probably know John. And
I don't know him, but I know of him, of course.
Well, you know of him. But at the same time, he goes in all these bars and these people make these things. And I'm like, wait a minute, does that go together? And you're just telling me, wait, it does go together. Now, how do you find out these things go together? You just test them on your own?
Well, here's the deal. I got to the point where I really have a very simple philosophy. And I stick to this is everything goes with everything. It's all about balance. So there was this book I remember people use. It's called the Flavor Bible. And people would go to that because they, if they got in a mess, there would be all these things of what goes with what. And I remember I had been doing so much of what I did for so many years before I saw the book. I saw that book and I went right to the things they told you not to pair. Don't put lavender with coffee. I'm like, I'm putting lavender with coffee. I'm going to make it work. So,
I love that.
Because I was never trained, I was self-taught. I don't think about right or wrong. I just think about, I want to do this. And who cares if it doesn't work out, or who cares if I have the confidence that I'm going to make something eventually that they're going to like, right? So I think for me, and I do a lot of unusual ingredients. It was a natural progression. I started putting sea urchin in a drink. I remember I had to do a sea urchin dinner with these amazing chefs. And I made this sea urchin cocktail, and it's what I call a 50-50, meaning like 50% of the people are not going to like it, right? But I will do it because I stand by what I do. And it was such a savory drink. It was, I can't remember exactly when, but it was, I made a sea urchin puree with nori and a cumin simple syrup and tequila, right? And half the people loved it, half the people didn't like it. So when I was doing another pop-up, and it was actually in my book, I was like, I'm going to make an uni cocktail that everybody's going to fucking love. You know what I mean? And so I made it with tequila, strawberries, and marjoram. And there wasn't a single person that turned it down. They couldn't believe it. It had the fruity, the herb, and then it had that ocean coming through, but just perfect, which goes back to what I'm saying is everything goes with everything.
The blend ended up being exactly what you were going for. And that's what I was going to ask you. Some people say, because I don't know if I'm not a drinker, but I don't know if I could drink anything like sea urchin, but
Yeah.
I mean, I would try it. Do a lot of people are apprehensive before they try things?
All the time. I think what happened when you first started talking, I thought you were going to say what I'm about to say, is that people are like, well, what's in this? I'm like, they go, that doesn't sound good. And I love when people be like, I didn't want to tell you, but when you're describing it, it sounded like it wouldn't go together, but then it's so good.
Let them drink it first, then tell them.
Well, so here's a perfect example of what happened, which is another reason why I developed. So that strawberry balsamic vinegar drink that I told you about.
Yeah.
A woman came in and she said to me, she goes, can you make me something sweet but not too sweet? So I made her that, right? And she goes, oh my God, this is the best drink I ever had. She goes, what's in it? I go, well, it's got gin and strawberries and balsamic vinegar. She goes, balsamic vinegar? I hate balsamic vinegar. Can you make me something else? I said, you just told me it was the best drink you ever had. She goes, I know, but I hate balsamic vinegar. So what I realized, especially when it comes to food, is people taste with their heads. They think they know with their heads. But when it's put in a liquid form and you can take out textures and stuff like that, now I'm broadening somebody's kind of repertoire. And that's what I love about the liquid form, right? But because she was that way, I got rid of a menu forever. And just like what you said, Jimmy, is I would give someone a drink and I wouldn't tell them what's in it until they tell me they loved it or not. Wow. Because I knew if they were just someone like this was new to them and they're apprehensive, they're going to run with that. They're going to be like, oh, don't make me the balsamic, make me something else. And I was like, I should have just made it for them. You know what I mean?
Where do you find the edible flowers?
What's that?
Where do you find those edible flowers that you can actually eat the flowers?
Well, listen, we're in an amazing farmer's market here. Like everyone will be like, where'd you get that? Where'd you come up with? I'm like, I'm going to tell you the same answer. I walk the farmer's market. These farmers, to me, set the trends. And, it got to the point where I was like in the farmer's market mafia, where if something new came out, the farmer would be like, hey, and call me to the back of it. That was like a little deal.
I love that.
They knew that I would appreciate it. I would do something with it,
Wow. Let's see, we have a question there, right? My wife always wants to drink.
That will get
her home. Yep.
Everything in a double sugar and no ice. Need to find a drink that will do the same effect of drinking for hours, but instead one drink. Well, I make a great version of a Long Island iced tea. So it's strong, but it's made with all these incredible organic spirits, and you put blood orange. And if you make it tall enough with a beautiful ice and garnishes, it's hard. You can guzzle that, but you're not going to go through 18 million of those. It's just not going to happen. But you're going to feel it, but I don't think you're going to slurp it, But that's the closest I can get, because my drinks are really for savoring. They really are an experience. And I have so many times, because of the nature of the ingredients that I use, people will contact me and they're like, I can't believe how good I feel. I had 5 of those, And so I love hearing that, because it's one of those things where it's not intentional. I'm not really a big drinker either, Doc. So that's a big thing. I taste a lot in my head now. I don't even need to try the drinks. It's like I kind of know, and it's that. But yeah, the flowers are all from these incredible things. And then you find other things. There's other vendors out there that you can get delivered to and stuff like that. And yeah, that's really it. But I love the vibrancy of things, because the way that I used to think is, there's really 4 impressions of a drink. Someone hears the name and that kind of sets off something. Then they see it, then they smell it, and then they taste it. And I always felt like each time it should be bringing that person closer and closer to you. Like, oh my God. You know what I mean? So each one is like that. That's how I used to think of it, Because I would see these people, I'm like, I'm pulling them to me. They're not going to pull me. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. In the beginning too, I'd be like, I would acquiesce more to people, like what they want, and then I was like, no, they don't know what you do. Like, what are you trying to convince them? You present what you present. They're not going to have this experience anywhere else. So you do what you do, and they're either going to like it or you can alter it.
Sure.
But don't let them run the show.
Tell us about some of the clientele you had at the Hollywood Roosevelt and some of the clientele that you had on the cruise ships.
What about them?
Tell us about any celebrities.
I have great people. Yeah, I did different celebrities parties and things like that. What was really unique about the library bar, that I think another thing that I have a huge advantage over people that started in bars and restaurants and things like that is, it was such an international place in the sense of a lot of people came through there from all walks of life. And I think when I was starting off, I had no idea. I was in this little room, what I was telegraphing. But when people started coming like, oh, someone told me about you in Perth. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I mean, within a year, I was in the New York Times, LA Times, and CNN.
Unbelievable.
And all I was doing is I wasn't trying to fill a niche. I just did what I was passionate about and what I thought I could do. And it's a real calling. That's the difference of, you have a calling, it's like, I didn't even drink. I was somebody who went to bed at 8 o'clock and now I'm going to bed at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? And it was just a weird, change of life, Hello, Pittsburgh.
Hey, Susie. Also, I saw you cooking the other day on Facebook.
A lot because I don't know if you know this, but I had a restaurant. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I had a restaurant and it was my dream. So I opened it about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what it was it wanted to do food and drinks, but it was still the emphasis on food, drinks. So it was 12. It was a liquid tasting menu of 18 courses. It was 12 courses of liquid and 6 courses of food. I know that guy's thinking, that's where we got to take my wife, But it's all small drinks. It's not, 12 full drinks.
Little tiny things.
Yeah, it comes out to maybe 3 or 4 cocktails over the course of an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I was doing the food, and it was really based on my Greek grandparents, and I was fusion Japanese with it. And now that I'm, now that I was doing all these bottles this last year, and I started doing cheese boards, I started to incorporate more food that I could maybe sell with these things, right? And now that I have people coming to my house, 2 to 4 people at a time, donation only, I'm starting to do all the food again. So and the food is also what cooking is what it. So cocktails got me back into food, and now the food is going to enhance my cocktails. Does that make sense?
It does. You had a big egg the other day with your
Emu
twin boys.
Egg,
what was that? What exactly was that? The hugest egg I ever seen.
I go into my eggnogs the last 3 years, and I started hauling them out. And you see in my book, I actually serve drinks in that egg. But an emu egg will feed 3 to 6 people. It's 60% yolk, and I'm in love with them, and I love the whole thing.
Wow. What were your favorite memories of Good Spirits?
I mean, honestly, I think Madeira is my favorite place. If you saw that, Madeira is an island off of Portugal. And I remember it was the 3rd episode we filmed. And I never, those chestnuts, we happened to be there during chestnut season. Chestnuts was something that was in the stuffing that my grandparents made it's a Greek stuffing. It's not, it's meat-based. It's not bread-based in our turkey for Thanksgiving. And I'll never be able to eat another chestnut again. I mean, they were so incredible. And I also remember it has a very similar climate to California. And I used wild apples. There was an incredible thing. Everything about Madeira and where we were, and we hit this incredible festival. I forget it was. It was a church every year. They had this night of candles and stuff like that. It was so beautiful. And I remember when I was filming, like. This is what I've always wanted to do. I really have wanted to travel and make drinks. This is really what I wanted to do,
Wow. How did that come about? How did that whole television show come about? How did they find you?
Listen, I had been working on something that was very similar. I just couldn't get it sold. And I remember I was doing a pop-up. It's going to be 6 years ago. I was doing a pop-up in this place that I consulted in North Hollywood here called the Fat Dog. And this guy had come in with his girlfriend. Girlfriend. And he started talking to me, asked me questions. He asked me if I ever done TV. And he gave me his card. I'm like, here's another guy that's going to give me his card and not going to do anything, right? And I didn't think anything of it. And then they came back with a bunch of people the following week. And so what I found out is this guy was the showrunner for the Carnival thing. And they had already casted this big bartender from Chicago. And after he met me, he goes, this is the guy, though. We got to get rid of that other guy. He goes, this is the guy. He's doing exactly what the show is. He takes ingredients and he doesn't matter what they are. He will make something of it. So he was pretty blown away. And if it wasn't, but I remember too, he still has the message of me telling him, almost turning the project down because I didn't really believe it to be true. Because he came to me and he's like, oh yeah, they want you. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't know if it's right. He goes, no, you don't understand. This is not like we're going to film a pilot. We're shooting all 10 episodes. And I said, oh, really? Okay, I'm in. because I didn't want to go. I don't know. It was something about it. I've been through so much of this. Right. And what happens a lot of times, and I don't have to tell you this because you're in the business, but what your vision is always kind of gets changed during the episode.
Absolutely.
Or whatever they
word.
Right? And I think there's very rare circumstances, like Anthony Bourdain probably being a perfect example of that, where he got to really do a show that really showcased him to his fullest. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hard in entertainment. You know what I mean? I think what's changing, obviously, is all these streamings and all these YouTube channels that people can do now is changing that, But I was always afraid of kind of being caught up in that a little bit, is not being able to do what I really wanted to do or to show what I really do,
You did such a great job on that show. It should have never ended.
Yeah.
Never ended.
Well, I think with Carnival, they needed to trust, and they tried to become producers. They're not producers. They should have left that to somebody else, Yeah. And they're a wonderful company. They're great people, but they got too much in their head about it. And listen, my show, if you watch it on my website, it is a show that easily could have been on Netflix or anything like that. You know what I mean? It was so well shot. They had a wonderful budget of it. I mean, we had just me. I had 6 bags that I traveled with of all my stuff.
Wow.
I mean, it was incredible.
Now, when you went to every other country, did you pick up tips and new things all the time? That's what's good about it.
No, I really like that, and I think it's great too because you're around people. Every time I went to a place, people looked at we looked at each other as peers. There wasn't competition. No one was and if I turned them on to people a lot of times. Hold on one second. Hey guys, hi Coleman. Hello. Hold on, I have some. Can you please go get Andrew?
Okay.
But go get him downstairs, okay? Sorry.
Cool. You're good. You're good.
Chaos here with kids starting school tomorrow. So, what was I saying? Yeah, I always would pick up. I like the little things that I picked up, and like in the Dominican Republic, it was more about also inspiration. So when I went to the Dominican Republic and I saw all these coconuts, I'm like, I'm gonna make coconut milk for the first time from scratch. You know what I mean? Because I again never really used. Sweetheart, just go down the stairs and get him. He's waiting, okay? Please, love. Thank you. So that those kinds of things. So I was very influenced in that way, but I got more influenced by the chefs that I met or just the farmers, For me, I don't necessarily have a great technique at bartending. And I said this on a podcast that's on my website. It's a wonderful podcast called Ologies. And she came and interviewed me after the fire. She interviewed me that's the other thing. I didn't talk about the fire. So I had that tasting menu of 12 drinks, 6 courses of food. I was open for 1 month and the Malibu fires burned it down. So I was open for 1 month.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I worked on it. It was my dream. But this is what's interesting. So when the pandemic, so I was in a coma for 3 months. I was just I couldn't believe it. So when the pandemic started, I didn't even hesitate because I had that experience. The next day I was illegally selling bottles and I was off. I had 500 labels and bottles on their way. So I learned from that, and it segued into becoming a very prolific, resourceful. I improved my craft by 100 times this year. People just don't know it yet because they haven't been around me. But the few people that have already, I'm definitely starting to operate, and that's what I always want to do. I always want to get better and improve.
Tell us about the book, Eat Your Drink, and you're working on a new book. Tell us about that one.
So Eat Your Drink is the name of my company, my business, and all. And that was another guy. That's another thing that people always say, like, I feel like I'm eating my drink. That's where that really came from. It would be food related and then, all this stuff. So the Eat Your Drink is really based on a lot of cocktails that I did at the library bar. And really came out of that really was, my culinary cocktails basically. And most of those drinks were classics and things that I developed at the library bar that I still do at private parties that I feel really I love. And the new book is really, it's called Oma Cocktail. And it's really going to be much more food, not food, but food related. They look like plated dishes more. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'll do like a French onion soup that has aquavit in it and things like that. So you're looking at it and it's like, it's got mussels and parsley, but it's a cocktail, you know what I mean? So it's much more kind of where I'm starting to go more. And I think when I do the third book, which I'm not going to worry about right now, will be more about tasting menus, you know, and I think I can call it rest. So, yeah, so that's what that is. But so for me, it's, I should have that done by the summer, hopefully.
And they can get it on your website, right? They can get an autographed copy.
Yeah, self-published. I only have 1,000 copies hand-signed.
Awesome.
So it's and I wanted to do that. I wanted to do something more special and unique that way, you know?
I love the bourbon ice cream you used for one of the drinks. Looks so good, man. Some of those drinks are like desserts, really.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, like I said, I wanted to incorporate all of that as much as I could, you know? And I also wanted, you know, it's funny, I've got a party in a couple of weeks and this woman's like, her husband's like, yeah, she's crazy about peanut butter and banana.
Oh, so cool. Elvis drink.
Yes, I found this. I found this peanut butter whiskey and I dehydrated bananas and put it in and vanilla. Guys, not out here, sweetheart. And I'm gonna make an eggnog with that. So it's gonna be an eggnog with peanut butters and banana. What?
Sounds so freaking good.
I know. I want one.
Hold on a second, guys. Where's Kai? But you have to take it in the other room, sweetheart. Not here. Kai, not here, love. Coleman, Kai. Sorry about this, guys.
No problem.
Okay, it's not your fault.
Guys, can you just take it in the other room, please?
They want to be on the show.
Another half hour left.
Everybody wants to be on the show.
Everybody wants to be on the show. Wow. So what are some of your favorite bars in LA right now, besides the Library Bar, of course?
That's the other thing is I don't really go to bars. And the first reason for that, well, I don't really drink. The first reason is I never wanted to be too influenced. And that might sound funny because, you know, it's all about influence, right? But it
is all about influence.
It is, right? Yeah, or under the influence. But for me, I had so much inside of me. I needed to get that out before I started looking and people feeling like I was being influenced or copied somebody or whatever. So I wanted to deal with what was inside me. And I'm really just getting to the point now that I'm ready. And it's mostly happening more with food and chefs is going and being like I'm teaching myself because I don't really know anything about food. And when I say I don't know anything, I think I'm great at flavor. I don't have culinary techniques of food. So I'm slowly teaching me that stuff. Does that make sense? And so that's where I'm at with that. Yeah. So in terms of bars, I mean, listen, I think that Redbird, there's an amazing place called Redbird here. It's an amazing restaurant. But I really like Japanese things.
Do you really?
Really? Yeah. That's really my thing, you know. I've rarely eaten out during this whole pandemic. I've just cooked almost every single meal. But I think, you know, going for sushi or Japanese things that I probably couldn't make that well, those are the things I want to go out to. And I love Japanese flavors, you know, too. So anything like that I like. But and for me, I'm a very simple drinker. I like Chinar on the rocks, which is an artichoke liqueur with a big cube and maybe a citrus in there. And I'm done. You know, so I'm not really a drinker. I do like wine. I like white wine. I went to some sensational places up in Napa. I think Northern California, Napa had some really sensational places. You know, Meadowwood and Oak, Charter Oak, and those kind amazing. And this place called Single Thread. So I'm much more influenced by food right now than interested in drinks. I do like to see what people are going. And I'm just at that point where I'm kind of looking on Instagram, seeing what other people are doing more, and see what I can learn from. You know, but I didn't want to do that for a long time.
Matthew, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you try like a liqueur that is aged, that'll change the taste of something, do you try to do that every now and then? Like
you mean some within barrels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few barrels. I've done a little bit of it. You know, when I had my restaurant, man, I had prepared six cases of a Nicino. If you don't know what a Nicino is, it's a green walnut liqueur. And right where I had my restaurant, the place was genetically made for me. It was right on the ocean. We were on 6 acres. I had my own beehive there to make honey for the cocktails.
Oh, wow.
I had three huge gardens to grow everything. And I had this incredible wine cellar where I was making my own beers. You know, it was really awesome. But I had all these barrels. So my whole idea is, and then there was foraging right there in the mountains. You could walk. So there was actually green walnuts there, wild green walnuts, which because of the fire, I will not be able to recreate that for another 3 or 4 years. Okay.
Right.
But I was taking that because that was going to be my last course, you know, in the times to come. And I was going to make my Machino and then I was going to barrel age it just to add more to it. Yeah, for sure. And I've done stuff like that. I've done like things that you wouldn't think of, like a rhubarb Saint Germain and then like age that, you know. So it's more about, I enjoy that, but there's such an immediacy to what I do too, you know.
I love the bubbly Mary with all the tomatoes. Oh man, what a beautiful drink just to look at it. And it looks
17-step Bloody Mary.
Unbelievable.
I love giving that to people because it's more gazpacho like than it is thick thing. And I think I loved so when I first started at the library, because I didn't really have much experience. You got to remember, I was next to this club and there were like 21-year-olds coming ordering vodka Red Bulls, and I had to say to myself, how am I gonna get these people to drink what I'm making, right? And the first thing I did is I said, I'm gonna take the 3 most popular drinks that they asked for, and I'm gonna put my thing on it. So that was the Dirty Martini, the Bloody Mary, and the Long Island iced tea. Okay.
Nice.
So that's why that Bloody Mary became a 17-step Bloody Mary. My Dirty Martini tasted like a pepperoni pizza because I used sherry and garlic and oregano and feta. And then my Long Island iced tea, I did all these incredible alcohols with. When I really knew I was getting somewhere, is this guy came in and goes, "Hey, can I have one of those seasonal Long Island iced teas?" I'm like, yes, you know. Because I wasn't putting Coke in it. I wasn't putting sour mix. I had cachaça and mezcal, and it was awesome, you know? And, you know, with dehydrated blood orange slice and stuff. So the reason why I'm saying that is if I could get them to love something that they had a point of reference to, then I could get them to try anything I made. But I had to have that first thing. Oh my God, that's the best Bloody Mary. That's the best Dirty Martini. That's the best Long Island iced tea. Then that's how I did it. And I was the most exciting thing was how many people I turned every day. That was my job. Turn them over. They're not having that. Take that away. Get rid of Red Bull. There's not an option. You're doing this. You know what I mean? And that took a year or two to have that confidence. You know what I mean?
I'm sure.
I had no experience, you know?
But I think the uniqueness that you bring to the dance, as we say, is what made you what you are today.
Yeah,
so creative. Absolutely.
Yeah, very creative.
Like I said, if I wasn't given that place, they only left me alone because I was getting so much press and the sales were going off the roof. So why were they going to mess with me, right?
Right.
So, and because of that, everything was every day. It was like, here are my paints. I don't know what I'm going to paint. Yes, I had my repertoire, right? And I had my safety nets of like giving things I knew were great. But so much of it was someone say, hey, can you make something with that? Or they would give me an idea like, oh, you want that? Like one of my most popular drinks that's in my first book too, is I used to put this beet horseradish in my Bloody Marys, right? And one day this guy used to come in every week. He said to me, hey, can you make me something else with that beet horseradish that's not a Bloody Mary? Now, I never would have done that unless he said that. And all I did was I took a very basic Gordon's cup, which is just, cucumber, it's like a cucumber gimlet with gin with salt. But I put the beet horseradish in and strained it. And then it developed to put in those borage flowers, because borage flowers, if you taste them, taste a cross between an oyster and a cucumber. Then I used to serve shrimp with it or that's when I really started thinking about what food would I pair with these? Because it's definitely not just a drink that somebody's going to drink. Like they might want to eat something with this, So, yeah, they might feel like it's a food on its own, but it was also like, what can I pair with this that they're gonna love,
Today on Facebook, you had a nice recipe called plasto. Am I saying it right? I don't know.
Plasto man, is a Greek dish, and it's from my great grandmother. And plasto is basically a spanakopita, if you know what that is, right? It's a spinach pie with feta, but it's with phyllo. But where my grandparents' village was in Greece, in northern Greece, they didn't have the money, they didn't have the resources, so they made it with cornmeal. So it's
Oh,
like
wow.
a dried polenta on top on the bottom. And I have my grandmother's original pan. It's 40 years old. Like
Wow.
I've moved a lot. There's two things I've kept: that pan and like a Buddha that my father gave me in 1977 from Hong Kong. That's it. I don't care about anything else, you know. I have kids now, so I have to be nostalgic about what they like.
We understand that. Yeah.
It looks
So-
absolutely delicious, man. Look really,
Oh,
really
it's
good.
so good. I mean, I've made 2 already this week. I'm making another one on Thursday, but it's now going to be the appetizer for my at home here.
Oh,
So we
nice.
did this. One of the things we did, it's called a teropeta that we did at Monli when I had my restaurant. It was made with phyllo, but it was all leeks inside and butter.
Right.
And then we made a passion fruit, cactus fruit chutney. There was so much cactus fruit there that we made a vinegar. We made a chutney. I also made a granita that went on top of my sea urchin bite.
Oh, wow.
So I was using, that's what I'm saying. The place was genetically made for me. You know, it's
It's
just
crazy. Let me ask you this, Matthew. I was watching a cooking show recently, and I saw somebody cooking with squid ink. Would you ever put some of that?
I've done it. I remember this one guy who was so funny. I made this cocktail and I put squid ink, and he goes, "You should call this the tackle box." You know what I mean? And it's so funny. I've got squid now that in my freezer that you could see the ink there. And it's so funny because, so one of the things I did at Monli, we'll go back to truffles and mushrooms, is, so I found these little sea sponges. Let me just grab one. It's right here. So
What amazes me is I didn't even know you can even eat it.
It's amazing, man.
Listen, I had gone to this Calabasas farmer's market, right? And I saw these little sea sponges. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but I'm going to do something with them. So I bought them, right?
It's amazing.
And then I started reading about it. And, you know, back in Roman times, they basically, that's how they transported liquid. You know, they would put the water in there, they would carry it. And when they were ready to drink it, they would basically squeeze it and the water would come out. So when people showed up at Monli, this already had my old fashioned in it and it was sitting on their plate. So whenever they got down, I would talk to them about it and they would take it. It was a new sponge every time, so I never recycled them. They put it in out, suck everything out, and then they would spit it out. But then after Monli burned down, I started taking this further and I had made a black truffle mezcal old fashioned. And I put it in this. And if you look at this, it almost looks like a truffle.
It does, yeah.
But it's not black. So what did I do? I took squid ink and an atomizer and I sprayed it.
Oh, wow.
And I served it on a little potted plant like it just came out of the ground. And now this was a black truffle mezcal old fashioned made to look like a black truffle that you were going to drink.
How creative is he, Doc? I mean,
Oh my God, it never stops with you.
Well, that's
It
what I'm
never
saying. I try to tell people the reason. And the other thing too is to go back to what you were saying about, do you go out to drink? I don't socialize with bartenders. It's nothing personal. I don't go out because I don't want my passion to die. I don't. Well, a lot of times you can get into professions, and if you get oversaturated in your profession, you start to lose interest. You start to get cynical. You start to take on negativity that you shouldn't. It's not yours, and it has nothing to do. These are all lovely people. It has nothing to do with that. It's
Right.
I didn't want my passion to be diminished in any way. I was more powerful just letting it build inside of me, you know, and that's so it goes back to that. So when I say there's no end to what I do, there is no end because all I'm going to keep doing is switching things in and out. If it's not truffles, it's going to be something else. You know what I mean?
Right. I love that. I love that.
Well, next time I'm in LA, you know where I'm coming. I'm heading right to your house.
I'm very close to the airport, so you don't have to go very far after you get off that plane.
So cool. You know, Matthew, you're also into wellness, right? Tell us about that.
Big time. Yeah, I love that. Listen, I just think that health is a big part of everything in any way, and everyone has their own definition. I mean, I've lost 30 pounds. I wish I'd like to lose more, but I'm in good shape. You know what I mean? And I eat really well. So yeah, I just think that, you know, sustainability in terms of listen, you know how the people will have these retreats or they have these things like go to Italy and go eat for 7 days or whatever, or, you know, you're going to do these tours. What they really need to have in those things is they need to have a mixture of like wellness and that, because what it is you want to keep being able to do that. You don't want to just keep doing that and then you don't feel good or you have to take a break. You shouldn't be taking a break from food. You shouldn't be taking a break from drinks. You know what I mean? Right. It should be part of like your lifestyle. You know, I mean, that's how my grandparents were. I never saw a lot of excess. But it really comes down to the quality of food, and I'm really I'm just into exercise and eating well and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And your body's made up over 80% of water, right? I think I was reading that on the
so
website.
I do all these waters. So that's a big thing, is just the waters that you consume and the hydration of that. Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there anything you haven't done that you want to do?
People ask me that a lot, and it's that great quote from Diane Arbus, that photographer, and her thing is, my favorite place to be is where I've never been before.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I can't wait to travel again. I think what it is now that I'm the three places I really want to go. I want to go to Sardinia. I want to go to Japan, and I probably want to go to a place like in Australia. So I think it's going to be more about, Jimmy. It's going to be more about like, what am I going to discover that I can do? I don't even know what it is. I'm going to discover it, or someone's going to turn me on to something. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to find, So I think that's what it is. But I think Japan, I think there's a lot of unique ingredients there that I haven't been exposed to. So I think that's where I'd like to go next.
Nice. Out of all the great things you've done, any great achievement?
What's that?
Really? Out of all the great things you've done, any great achievements that you really look back and say, "Wow, I can't believe I did that." Was that good spirits? Was that
Jimmy? The year that I was doing that show was a phenomenal year. I was doing the show. I shot for 100 days. I was editing my book. I remember, like, you want to talk about like make somebody jealous, sick kind of. There I was in my house in Tahiti, overlooking the ocean at 5 a.m, reading my edits on my book that just got FedEx from New York. You know what I mean? And I was just about, and then as soon as I was done with that, I was going to be picked up on my 30-minute drive to a vanilla farm. I mean, come on. So cool. My achievements was that year because I did the show. I was editing my book. I had investors for a bottling thing, which I'm now finally doing now, but I had investors in my bottling, and I was doing a consulting for another place here. And then I also was consulting for San Juan Hotel in Puerto Rico. Nice. So it was a year where I thought, oh my God, everything's going to change. This is where my life is going. Everything's lined up. And then everything didn't the following year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That happens.
It's in God's time,
exactly.
I was going to say, Matthew, that you can't give up on what you're doing. I mean, you're just amazing, but I can offer you this too. We have our own Roku channel. I'll be glad to give you your own channel.
Oh, wow.
I can promote you on our website. We have millions and millions of listeners, millions and millions of followers, and we can also sell your book.
I love it.
We can do all three, and we don't need networks, really. We're on our own.
No. Well, that's a great thing because it's. I'll say it right now. I don't want to say anything yet, but I'm developing something that I've been working on already with the original producer of the show for Good Spirits.
That's nice.
So I'll let you know.
Oh, cool.
It's gonna. So we should be ready in another 3 months.
Oh, great. You'd be fantastic on Roku, really.
What's that?
You'd be fantastic on a Roku channel.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. I'm open to everything, and I think I'm more open to the fact that what we're doing is kind of what we're talking about, which is we want to own this. Let's do what we want to do. It doesn't have to be this crazy, crazy budget. Let's just start somewhere and create, and just go from passion. Go from the passion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I really appreciate it, and I will be calling you for sure. I won't forget that offer.
Doc, any parting shots?
I'm just so impressed. And like I said, I'm not a drinker, but I'm so impressed of the drinks. I mean, it really makes me want to try them.
Well, it's funny you say, because I got a lot of people. I'm not gonna say got them back into drinking. I wouldn't take that responsibility. I make a lot of virgin cocktails because for that.
How about non-alcoholic drinks? I mean, you should make a lot of them with some of these things.
Hold on, give me 5 minutes. It's a big deal because what it is I can do almost the exact same thing that I do, but without alcohol.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's huge. So that all developed because I remember this guy came in and goes, "Can I have a Shirley Temple?" I'm like, I can't believe these guys are drinking Shirley Temples. I mean, they're 30 years old. And now listen, people are not drinking because either they don't like it, they're taking a break, they're sober, they're the designated driver, they're whatever that is, right? But I was determined to make great virgin cocktails so that they would have the same experience as their friends. So what I started doing is I started making the grenadine from scratch instead of the crap that Rose's crap. So I remember when people would come in, they would go like this. They're like, "Could I have a Shirley Temple?" I'm like, "Well, that's actually out of season." And they go, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Well, do you know that Shirley Temples are really supposed to be made with fresh pomegranate juice? And that's the fall and this is the spring."
Oh, that sounds so good.
I said, "But I can make you a great virgin cocktail." And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "Well, what do you like?" And that's how that all developed. You know what I mean? So I got I got really into that. And then I would either use Pellegrino or kombucha or teas as the base, basically, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your version of the classic pina colada? I'm sure you have a creative one.
It's funny. I haven't really made that much. It's one
really?
Of those things, yeah, I really haven't made that. It's not something I got called for. But I do tell you what's interesting is when I had to. Do you know who Roy Choi is? He's a very famous Korean chef. He really created the whole, recreated the whole, or created the phenomenon of the food trucks. He had one of the first ones in here, Kogi, and he did an amazing. Just give me 1 minute. Let me finish.
Hey, how you doing?
He gave me one, and my point is he hired me to do the cocktails, and that's what I loved about it. He goes, "I want to reinvent all these drinks from the 80s, the fuzzy navel."
Nice. Oh, cool.
But I want you to do it your way. So that's what I did. So I would do like the fuzzy navel, and I would use kumquats and fresh passion fruit and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And I would take, like the Singapore sling and these things. But I never had to do the pina colada for that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, wow. That's great.
So, and it's not that I wouldn't do that. It's just that it hasn't been called for. And here we go. It might be one of these things where I'm somewhere and I have to do a pina colada and I have to do my own thing. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm sure you'll make it very creative.
But right now, that's what I'm saying is I haven't even gone through everything yet.
It's amazing. How often do you visit the farmers markets? Do you go out almost every day, or
4 to 5 times a week?
4 to 5 times a week.
And
wow.
Saturdays, sometimes I have to go to 3 different markets. You know what I mean?
Is that down in Santa Monica? You go down to Santa Monica?
There's two in Santa Monica, one in Playa Vista. I go to Santa Monica on Wednesdays as well. There's Playa Vista here, and sometimes I have to go to Larchmont. Like I had to go and get certain juices and dehydration things too. And then there's a farm that hasn't been coming down here. That I had to have them start shipping things to me.
Because wow!
Coming here because of COVID.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
No, this was really great. You guys are awesome, and I'm very honored to be a part of this and to have you. I love when you just reached out, and I love it. So I appreciate it.
Well, it was great talking to you. We became friends after the show. Good spirits, and I've always been a big fan. And thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Doc.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Please.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matthew. Take care.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
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 What's up?
Oh, wow. Good job. Great show.
Oh, thanks, Doc. He's so creative, man. It's amazing what he can do with a drink. It's crazy.
I was going to ask him, he likes Japanese food so much, if he ever thought of doing like a Chinese General Tso drink. And he probably, I already did that.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Well, coming up next week on Celebrity Spotlight, we have Robin Beck. She's an international rock star. She will be here. She's from Brooklyn, New York originally. We have Demond Wilson, Lamont Sanford from Sanford & Son. He's on the way. Claudia Wells from Back to the Future. Hollywood historian Laurie Jacobson. She's an author. Tell you all about Hollywood, man. She's fantastic. She's going to be here. John Davison's going to be here. The Fab Four is going to be here. Vito Pacone, a good friend of mine from the group Diele, Little Star. I love that song. He's going to be here. And actress Darcy Donovan's going to be here. So we got some great stars on the way and a great lineup of people. So I hope you continue to join us. Me and Doc are so excited about it. Doc, what do you have going on?
Well, we reached out to a couple people, and I've sent them to you. I sent, of course, Susan Olson, Cindy Brady.
Yeah, right.
Right, John Ford Coley from England, Dan and John Ford Coley.
Working on that.
Heaton.
Yeah.
You know, me and Jimmy, we always, I always send Jimmy back and forth people, you know. But who decides to come on, it depends. Tomorrow, I want to say tomorrow, I have Terry Draper from Klaatu on.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to be interviewing him. And I've got Stephen Katz from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the original guy.
Oh,
He's
cool.
going to be on. So I've got a lot of things going on too. But yeah, what we just did, Jimmy, we just nominated a couple board members for Hamilton Radio, HRTV, and stuff like that. So I'm really, really happy about that. Our team is really coming together, and we're really going into 2021 with a great knowledge of working together with a lot of businesses. I just want to reach out and say that we help homeless charities, we help autism charities, we help people with addictions. We've done that in the past. We will continue to do that going forward. And I'm just glad to align my business with you, and create this show of what we did. And I'm so happy to be part of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
That's so cool.
Really all I got to say. There's so many things going on. I can't touch on all of them right now, but many things are around and are going to surround not only this station, but of course, our show. So,
awesome. That's great. I really looking forward to that. And I also want to thank all the listeners tonight. Cindy, Lake Ronkonkoma. Hope she's feeling a little bit better, and I hope we continue to improve. Marty in Brooklyn, Flora, Anthony Fagini, thank you so much. He texts me all week, and he watches the show, and he loves the celebrities. Tom, for the great questions, always every week. And happy birthday to our good friend Biagio. I have to say happy birthday to Biagio. Today's his birthday. Yeah. And I even reposted his celebrity spotlight on my Facebook page. So I hope he's having a great birthday today. Cool. And I want to thank everybody for listening. My mom here in Brooklyn also, and Joanne and everybody that's out there. Thank you so much for listening every single week. We really do appreciate it. And we will catch you next week. Anything else, Doc?
I just want to say hi to our friend John Wagner, Susan Murray that does the Top Cat Productions, and Jim Rose, a music artist that I've been friends with probably for more than 10 years. So thank you all for watching the show and partaking, interacting with the show, and being involved. And please tell your friends about us. You know, that's how me and Jimmy grow. We're always looking for sponsors for the show.
Yes, absolutely. Sponsors.
So bring them on, people. Bring them on. We're not just doing local businesses. We're doing corporations and companies. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Keychains left. If you want some keychains, just PM me on my Facebook page. I got a very a little limited edition of these Celebrity Spotlight keychains. If you want one, PM me, and I will be glad to send you one. So I wish you all a great week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See you, Doc.